Hello and welcome back to the Q&A. So as always, if you have a question you want to ask me, leave it in the comments. It can be lore or story or the same thing, gameplay, whatever. It doesn't even need to be World of Warcraft, but World of Warcraft stuff will probably end up getting the preference. Anyway, so today's questions. Well, the first one is from, well, I'm going to just say Raymond, and I'm not going to even try to do your surname because, let's be honest, I just fuck it up. Anyway, question 1. If you could pick 3 warlords that will live past the end of Warlords of Draenor and return to our timeline, what warlords would you like to see and why? Question 2. What is your opinion of the Taurens? Did they become too peaceful as a race? And do you think they lack any motivation to stay in the Horde or fight any other race because of their peaceful ways in a world that is built around conflict and war? Well, both good questions, and first of all, warlords. Well, I don't want any of the warlords actually coming back personally. Don't worry, I will choose 3. But the reason I don't want any coming back is because it just throws too many annoying time spanners into the works. I would just rather have this whole warlords thing as like we go back, we deal with the problem, and then it's done. In terms of some of the new characters, I don't really know how they're going to handle that. Like, for an example, to the Alliance, will Yril come back? Will Mazad or whatever, or Marad, will he come back? For the Horde, will Druitan come back? These are odd questions. What does that mean? You know, if Thrall's dad just suddenly appears? I don't... yeah, it's hard, really. So from that perspective, I'm going to say, do I think they should come back? Not particularly, or I'd say maybe at the end of the expansion. A lot of stuff goes down. Maybe a lot of them end up dying or something. But it's just a very weird thing in storytelling, time travel, and different versions of the same character. So yeah, it's strange. But anyway, let's pick 3. Well, first of all, I think we know that Ner'zhul, Gul'dan, etc., the bad guys, we're going to kill them all. So I don't think they'll come back. So which warlords? Well, the only other warlord we have left is Druitan, and I think if there was one character to come back, it would probably be him. He is, as far as his situation sort of allows him, or allowed him at the time, he was a pretty good orc. He was a good guy. He was a bit more honourable than most of them, and he still had a sort of good honour values and things like that. So yeah, I'm going to say Druitan's probably number 1. Now, for the other warlords, none of them are going to come back, and I can't really pick any of them because we know they're going to get killed. Like, this is going to be probably a self-contained story that leads into something else, so the other warlords are all going to die. As far as other characters that come back, well, they're building up Yril to be this big, like, Alliance champion, kind of main character deal sort of thing, so I think they'll, like, if they were to bring a Alliance character back, it would probably be her. Perhaps Marad gets killed or something like that. I could see a decent little story going on there. Especially if, like, she's related to Marad or something like that, so that could be cool. As for the third character, well, I'm all out, honestly, I don't know. But, yeah, it's certainly a good question, actually, some good point. I suppose it raises some good points with time travel and just how that sort of story is dealt with once we move on from that story. I'd imagine it's still something that Blizzard, like, of course they know what the next expansion is, but right now I'm sure they're really just trying to crack on the details with Warlords and then also the next expansion, so probably they don't even know. So the next question, about what is my opinion of the Taurens, well, they're based off the Native Americans, actually. So, yeah, like, they are peaceful based, and that's one thing we know. They're kind of druidy and shaman. Are they shamany? Whatever, well, they're druidy, anyway. Like, they're all involved with the Senyarin Circle, and all that sort of thing. So, the Taurens, they're definitely they're more peaceful than, say, the orcs, or the traditional style orcs. But really, I mean, they're peaceful, but they do have motivation to go to war. The Horde are their brothers, I suppose. And there's that sort of pact between Thrall and Cain Bloodhoof that was all made in Warcraft 3. So they're kind of all like one and the same. But I definitely see your point. Maybe it seems a little bit like the Taurens are being dragged about the place on the whims of the Horde. Well, first of all the Warlords of Draenor, not the Warlords, sorry, like a lot of the stuff in Mists of Pandaria was because of a leader of their faction getting pissed off. They had to fight that. Like, there just really isn't anything they could have done. The leader hated them, he probably wanted them all dead, he was probably planning on killing them all at some point, so they needed to fight. So there's that expansion covered. Wrath of the Lich King, well, when undead things start attacking your world, you kinda need to start attacking them back. So that's that covered. For Cataclysm, they love the earth through all their druidy, shamany sort of dealings and things. So obviously if they love the earth, then they're going to be a bit pissed off when Deathwing starts beating the shit out of it. So they do have motivation in that fight. For the Burning Crusade, I think it could definitely be argued that there wasn't as much of a massive, like, direct threat because Illidan was the main enemy, but there was still a threat on the planet they lived on, so they went there. And as for all the bosses and things that happened in Vanilla WoW, they still had motivation to fight those because they were all threats. So I think the Tauren, yeah, they're peaceful, and for an example, them, the Night Elves, it doesn't make much sense them being enemies because they actually kind of respect each other. So sometimes I think the Taurens in-game are fighting because of game mechanics and gameplay, and just the way that they kind of have to make an MMO, but also I think that sometimes it does make sense in the story. However, overall, I do see your point. Sometimes it seems like they're getting the rough end of the stick and they're just fighting because they're in the Horde. Would it not make more sense for them to be an alliance race or just to be off on their own, being their peaceful druidy things? Well, I guess maybe, but it's a game, and really when all this lore came up with, the Taurens were the cow people, they looked like beasts, so they were put in the Horde, I suppose. So yeah, overall, Taurens are cool enough. I like the new model for them, which is definitely nice. I think the current model is really, really old looking, as I suppose all of them are, but I just think Tauren seems to age particularly bad, especially that damn hair. Ugh, it's weird looking. But anyway, yeah, I'm cool with Taurens, and I think it makes sense for them to be in the fights that they are in. Now, the next question is from Macarian. So he says, what is your opinion on the secondary professions in World of Warcraft? Personally, I think they are moderately fun to progress casually as a break from other content. However, in the current game, in his opinion, there are only one or two that have actual use outside of being fun. Cooking provides buffs, and archaeology provides quirky little items, mounts, and that kind of thing. And then we have fishing and first aid, which to me have become a little redundant now. Don't get me wrong, I like having them as a tool, but do they still feel useful? Well, this is a bit of a weird question for me, because I never have bothered with a secondary profession, ever. I couldn't be bothered with fishing, I couldn't be bothered with any other ones, really. I tried archaeology for a little bit, I actually think I have it maxed as of Cataclysm, but in terms of the traditional ones, there's just no fun there for me. They don't do anything. My guild provides the buff food, so why would I bother doing anything else? And I definitely agree with you that they kind of feel a little bit redundant. I guess cooking they can do interesting things with, and archaeology is fun for the people who maybe want to go finding lore items or quirky little things. However, it does have an issue with being tedious. Fishing, it would make me want to scratch my own eyeballs out. It's not fun. I hate it. I hate it. Really, really hate it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't like them. I suppose it's good to have them there, and people enjoy them, so I'm absolutely not saying take them away. No, people enjoy them. But, yeah, I just don't have anything really much to say on the matter, other than I think they're often very boring. You also said, would I like to see any more different secondary professions? Not particularly. I think they would just be adding to bloat. I'd say that right now they should just concentrate on making the current ones a little bit more fun, because I think that they are all lacking in fun. So then, let's just round it off with two other questions. The first one is from Kitomi Mendoza, who says, Shadowhunter as a class and Murlocs as a race, what do you think? Well, Murlocs as a race, I think that would be hilarious and awesome, but it wouldn't happen. And when I say awesome, I mean, like, I probably wouldn't want it in the game, but I think it's a kind of hilarious idea that would be fun. But yeah, Murlocs, I just don't think they work as a race, you know, they're not going to fit in with the Horde, because the Horde have been slaughtering them all this time. The same goes for the Alliance, so they wouldn't be a race, but hey, third faction, totally going to be the Murlocs and the Gnolls and the Kobolds. Actually, funny little story, they were originally thinking for Warlords of Draenor, or this kind of basic Warlords expansion, that one of the main enemies they could have was the Mongrel Horde, and that would just be all the beast races of Azeroth. I'm really glad they didn't go with that one, but yeah, anyway, Shadowhunter as a class. Well, from what I understand, Shadowhunter is kind of like a voodoo hunter, a bit like Vol'jin, sort of. I'm not really too sure if that could be differentiated enough from a hunter. A lot of people have said Demon Hunter is too close to a Warlock and a Hunter and a Rogue, Well, actually, a demon hunter is kind of completely different from a hunter and a rogue, but it's I suppose it's nearly like a rogue imbued with warlock magic and shit. It's honestly at this stage very hard to add a new class to the game without just making things kind of overlap too much. And I just think Shadowhunter, if it's going to be a ranged class, like a second ranged class with bows and stuff's cool, but how do they differentiate that from a hunter? Like, one range shot ability, like, how could it be different from Arcane Shot? You know, I think it would definitely be tricky to design that class. Now, the next question is from Zanway's Dodd, who says, are you planning on playing Elder Scrolls Online? If so, why or why not? Am I planning on playing it? Well, I mean, I'll play it when it comes out, sure. But I really have reservations about that game. From everything I've seen of the combat system, it looks awful. It just looks so bad. It's like they've tried to, basically, they made an MMO which was very similar to World of Warcraft, but had one or two key differences in the combat, and that it felt sort of more Elder Scrolls-ish. Which, by the way, I'm just going to say is a bad thing in my opinion, because Skyrim, the only thing Skyrim has going for it is that it has great lore, and it has a beautiful, well-realized world. The problem is it's got a terrible story, terrible characters, terrible combat, and terrible quests. Hence why I think Skyrim is overrated as fuck. Now this same problem seems to extend to a lot of the Elder Scrolls games. Now I did enjoy Morrowind and Oblivion significantly more than Skyrim, because I think in Oblivion, like, side quests and stuff had proper stories to them, whereas they just relied too heavily on the Radiant system in Skyrim. But anyway, I kind of digress. Basically it seems like Elder Scrolls Online, a lot of people were very worried about it, because they're just like, oh, it kind of looks like World of Warcraft, and some early people that had played reviews said, yeah, it's kind of a hotkey thing. And then they were like, oh, we're going to make it first person. It's as if they're shoehorning the main Elder Scrolls series into an MMO. And every piece of combat, including the big reveals and all the big polished hype things I've seen for the game, they just look shit. They looked really shit. I mean, okay, it looked cool running around in first person. Oh, hey, look, it's like Skyrim. But when it turned into actual combat, it just looked like it fell to pieces. Now that is, of course, I think one of the main initial problems people saw was the animations. Of course, I think they'll be fixed, but just in general from a combat system, it didn't look very good to me. So I don't have high expectations in terms of combat. I think the world will probably be beautiful and interesting to explore, and yeah, I'll play it, and I'll do coverage for it, and yeah, you'll see that when it comes. Anyway, that is it for today's Q&A. If you have any questions, stuff like that, leave them in the comments, and I will add them to my big Word document of questions and things. I still have a few from, like, I have one left from episode 21, one from episode 23, some from another video, so I do have stuff on the way. For the guy asking the Worgen questions, I am planning on doing a Worgen lore video at some point, so it will be answered in that. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.